All right, so you're Philip.
Yep.
And Philip, remind me again, you're from the New York, Connecticut area originally, you said?
Well, yeah, families in Connecticut.
You can turn the chair if you want, if it feels more natural.
I worked in New York.
Ah, okay. In right in Manhattan?
I actually worked in the tri-state metropolitan area.
Oh, yeah, okay,
New York, New Jersey.
Yeah.
You know where all the industry is.
Absolutely. I went to Columbia.
Oh, right.
And then and my brother lived in Albany for a while.
Yeah,
so.
and Columbia was a client of mine.
Yeah, nice.
The science department.
So, sorry, we're having a conversation. Yeah. So, Philip, you moved to Arizona 20 some odd years ago. You said?
Yeah, 2000.
And so you were your family was Catholic when you were young because you're Italian, and then is that right?
Yeah.
But then you sort of early on were like, this is all BS. I don't believe any of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then but as you were growing up, were you married? Like 20s,
Yeah.
30s and stuff?
Yeah.
Had a family?
Oh, yeah. No, I was married. I had 2 kids.
Okay.
Diane, my wife, went to the other side in 2000.
Okay.
You know,
sorry to hear that. And so you were living like with her, but you're irreligious. Was she irreligious?
No, we just went through the motion just to keep the family happy.
Okay. You'd go to mass on Easter or something.
Yeah. Easter.
How about your kids?
Um,
Are they irreligious too, or do they
No.
have some?
No, they aren't even atheists.
Meaning they're just kind of agnostic,
Nothing,
or you think they maybe believe in God, but they're not really
I
practicing
don't
Catholics
think
or
they
something?
believe in God, no.
Okay, all right. Meaning they're not even atheists. Meaning they're even beyond that. To who cares?
Yeah. I mean, at times I'm thinking, when I read about what goes on, and that this is sort of getting to be like a religion. The beliefs.
The atheism is.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think that would be the people who'd be the least than religious, or like what does that mean, and how is that happening?
Well, I think the people who are trying to convince the Christians to abandon Christianity, they're like real believers, and
they're trying to persuade them.
yeah, and so to me, I think those people are almost acting like it's a religion.
Okay. And if you're so in your mind, kind of like true atheism, you're not really trying to convert anybody deconvert them out of anything. Is that right?
From my initial readings, no, I'm not ever going to try to convince somebody. And how dare they try to convince me?
Yeah. What about in politics?
Yeah.
So, first of all, let me just say this. One of the things I'll say to my Christian friends is that I think if Christians either think this in their head or convey the idea that someone else's friendship is conditioned on their future conversion to Christianity, then I don't think they're a true friend. So I think true friendship for a Christian means they don't look at people like they're just future Christians that they might convert. Do you know what I'm saying by that?
No, say it again.
Well, like you were just saying, Christians are often rude and trying to convert everybody. And I'm saying I think that if that's the case, that a Christian thinks they're a friend to somebody only because that person might convert, then they're not really being a friend.
No, that's being
because
dishonest.
Yeah, that's right. It's being dishonest. Excellent. So, but now at the same time, okay. So I that's my view. But at the same time, all of us in conversation, whether it's political things or cultural things or whatever, when we're talking to people, there's times where all of us are trying to sort of say why we think something, and we're kind of testing our ideas for what we think, and we're also, I think we probably are in a way that maybe we're not even always aware of, trying to maybe persuade other people, right? Like culture is full of people who are in whether it's in business practices or whatever, they're trying to persuade people. They might be trying to persuade people because they want them to spend money, You know,
that was me.
That's what you did. Yeah. That was your profession. Or they might do it just because there's not money, but just because they think it's a good idea, and we'd be better off in society if people thought this way. Do you think that's true or no?
I think it's true, but it's hard for me to relate because I don't do that.
Okay.
You know, again, once in a while when I'm having a debate with a Christian, I used to say, do you believe in magic? Do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in
fairies in the garden?
No. I said, well, I don't understand. Who's this Jesus guy you believe in?
Yeah.
You can't see him, you can't feel him, he doesn't talk to you.
Yeah.
You know, he's a ghost.
Yeah.
Oh, but you have to have faith.
Yeah, that wouldn't be very convincing. Although I think you'll agree, Jesus is a little bit different in that Jesus was like a historical person like Socrates, rather than just like unless it's a ghost of someone specific, you know. But anyway, so what I'm trying to get at is, like, you must have ideas about, or let's say it this way, you must see in other people in America ideas, culturally, politically, whatever, that you just think are bad ideas, and they would be bad for society.
Yeah.
So isn't there some way in which sort of you would want other people to share your ideas rather than have these bad ideas that don't work or that you think are, inferior ideas?
Yeah. Well, there's some senator down south who feels that you need to be a Christian to be in politics or be in office or something like that.
Throw a rock and you'll hit a politician who thinks that, probably. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a bad idea, right?
Yeah.
You're going to say that's a bad idea.
Yeah, obviously.
But wouldn't you then want to, in some ways, try, to kind of persuade people that that's not a good idea?
It depends on how deep they are into it.
Okay. Yeah.
If they're like considering it, this may be a good idea. Then I'll talk to them about it.
Then you might be feeling like.
But if he's like dyed-in-the-wool conservative, I don't waste.
Feels like it's worthless.
I'm 84 years old. I only have 6
You're
more.
84? You're kidding me.
Why would I be kidding you?
You look a lot younger. You carry yourself a lot younger.
Oh, okay.
But you're mechanical engineering, so you're a smart guy, so maybe that's part of it. I don't know. No, I did not think you were that old.
No, so I say I only got 6 years to live.
When you were like 55, were you trying to persuade people more than you are now?
I would have conversations with Christians.
Yeah.
And they would always morph into trying to convince me how wrong I was.
Yeah.
And so I sort of gave up.
Okay.
I just gave up.
But you were in your own way trying to persuade them as well that they weren't right?
I don't think I had the mindset I'm trying to change this person.
Yeah.
All I'm trying to do is let this person know how stupid he is.
I think that's trying to help them, isn't it?
I guess
I'm a teacher. That's what I do every day. The goal is to help them,
Yeah. So
the reason I'm asking is because there's like half of me is I like what you're saying. Like there's people are rude to one another. They come off as arrogant. And actually, I think this is true of atheists and Christians and of other people too. I think it's true of a lot of people. But I also know that in my own conversations with people, I know there's a sense in which I am trying to persuade people of ideas. But at the same time, you're also you have to be open to just like this reading, whether you're just trying to have a good conversation with someone, you have a high level of trust, you're just having a good conversation. And that's very different from like with people you don't have much acquaintance with, you don't know them very well, and you're just trying to like rudely trying to convince them of something. That feels to me very different, those two things. Because of course in the podcast, Drew and I are, because we're very good friends, and he grew up Christian, is now an atheist, and I grew up atheist and now Christian. in a sense, we're like, we've had so many thousands of hours of conversation. It's kind of way past this idea that we're going to like persuade or convince one another. But at the same time, we both occasionally are trying to score a little bit on the other guy. But we're such good friends.
Yeah.
It's more humor in that, I would say. In our kind of, if you knew us well, you would see that there's very much a kind of openness to that.
What helped you cross the line?
So, first of all, that we both genuinely respect each other's intelligence. We both think we're sincere. We interact in ways that go way beyond just like our religious beliefs. And it's gone, and over time, we've had discussions which were, of like highly, highly sensitive nature, but we're able to do that in a way where it didn't ruin our friendship. Neither of us was condescending or arrogant toward one another. And so there's a very high level of respect of each other as a result of that. And I think just over time, we've just gotten to where there's just such a high level of trust that we keep talking and get along really, really well.
So right now, you believe in Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
he's out there, and he's watching over you.
Yeah, I believe that the guy that lived 2,000 years ago died and rose from the dead, and all that stuff. And amazingly, I went to Columbia, and I wasn't even raised Christian. Like I was raised,
you got the
more
Christian
or less
name.
Irreligious. Was that?
It was your
William?
destiny.
William?
Oh, Abraham. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, there's no Abraham.
I'm sorry.
My name's
My
William.
eyes.
My name means the king in Greek, by the way.
Yeah.
Your name means horse lover.
And I was involved in horses.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, but like belief in God, right? Just historically, right? Aristotle believed in God. Socrates believed in God. They weren't idiots. Now, there are reasons for believing in God. I mean, people across history who study philosophy up to this day, at Cambridge, at Oxford, or wherever, even at Columbia, read Aristotle and Socrates and the classical philosophers. They read Leibniz and they read great thinkers through history. It doesn't mean they agree with everything. They may reject a lot of what they say, but they're highly respected thinkers who really tried to understand ultimate reality, the nature of the universe, and so on, and essentially created the first sort of irrigation channels of philosophy for all of history. So it's like, I don't think a typical philosopher is just going to say Socrates was an idiot, Plato was an idiot because he believed in some kind of God, I think that's not normally the way the professional philosophers I know would talk, even if they themselves are not atheists. So I don't think it's just sort of like everything about it is just bonkers, but it's clearly some things I think like I'm more understanding of and why would you say why you would say that? When I was in university, I remember writing a paper on Santa Claus, that God is Santa Claus, and no more convincing than Santa Claus. There's no more evidence for God than there is for Santa Claus and stuff. So it's not like I don't somewhat relate to that. Do you feel like you have someone like, whether it was a good friend or your wife or your children or something, where you could talk about these things and it not be like they would hold a different opinion, they would believe in God, and you could have really good conversations, or was that like never the case?
I never had these kind of conversations because it was just never an issue.
Okay. So but you must have had some people that were religious that were friends or in your
and they knew when they brought the subject up. I sort of blew them off.
Yeah.
And they
left. Yeah,
they left me alone. You had to see me in my 20s and 30s and 40s.
Right.
I was a real smart ass.
Were you really?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because you were smart. You were an engineer, so you can't.
Well, I had exposure to the contractors.
Oh yeah.
The building trades, plumbers, mechanical contractors.
I did
architects.
carpentry for a while, so I know that world very well.
I used to sell to PhDs. You know, and
a smart-ass New Yorker who works with builders and contractors and an engineer. So you had a little bit of an edge to you, probably.
Yeah, and I used to have to dress for it. Like if I went to see a contract, I'd put my tweed jacket on.
Yeah.
Whereas I went to the architects, I would put my three-piece suit on. You know.
Yeah.
And so I just played the game. You know.
Yeah.
But it was just.
So why would you now be? Is this your first atheist convention?
I was one. When was the last one you had in Phoenix? It was like 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I just happened upon it, and I just did the downstairs.
So you came around and just kind of did that, but otherwise you hadn't been to one until this one.
No, and then I get the magazine and everything.
Oh, and then you start. So have you been to other conferences in other cities?
No.
Okay, but this one because you're in Arizona, so you decided to come down. Okay. Do you have a community of atheists that you hang out with, or that form your, sort of like a community of friends or something?
There was a community up in Sedona, and they weren't my contemporaries, just a bunch of old people.
Yeah.
You know, and when I say old people, I associate with a lot of really old people that are younger than me.
Okay. Okay, got it, right.
And so I no one I could connect with.
Yeah.
They were sort of adversarial type people too,
Adversarial with their
trying to convert
their atheist beliefs. Yep.
But otherwise,
do you look at America as going in a great direction at this point?
No.
Even though it's secularizing, it's more secular now than it was, when you were 24.
Yeah, I know, and I don't understand. Well, I don't know that. No one proved it to me.
Proved that
it is true.
That it's more secular.
It is, yeah.
I'll tell you, I just rely on the Pew Research, and a lot of the guys from the American Atheists and Secular Student Alliance and stuff. I email them when polls come out and communicate with them, and I try to make sure we're both relying on the same facts.
Yeah.
And Pew Research seems pretty independent, so I tend to rely on them, and they show that definitely the country's secularizing, and there are fewer people who have a religious affiliation. 25 to 30% of the country identify as nuns and stuff. Not all are atheists, but their ideas of God are getting very generic or platitudinous or whatever. So why do you think, one might think, if we're becoming less religious as a country, you would think we're going in the right direction, but you don't think that. So why is that?
Because I think the conservative movement is a lot louder than what you that movement. That movement is not very loud. I don't hear it.
The conservative movement is not loud?
No, the conservative movement is very loud.
It's very loud.
They're saying, you can't be in office unless you're a Christian.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't see people saying, this year there are 100,000 less Catholics.
Got it. Yeah. So the volume in the culture is, the megaphone is in the hands of the minority conservative religious type.
Yeah.
And because of that, it leaves for you the impression that there's not the success you think is supposedly happening according to Pew Research or whatever.
And if I were to speculate, and I do speculate.
Yeah, why not?
The hell, I think the people who are leaving the mindset of religion, they were like me. They don't give a shit. They don't, they're not making a statement like, I made the conversion. They're just just not following. They're not going to church anymore. They're not donating to the church anymore.
Right.
They just don't bother anymore.
But wouldn't, if this just sort of projects out, wouldn't in 30 years or 40 years or something, there'd just be just a lot like that like smaller religious loud group right now would be not as influential, regardless of how loud they are, right? So wouldn't that still give you a sense like it's going in the right direction? I'm really curious about this because Christians, talk as if it's basically the end of the world right now, but a lot of times the progressives also talk as if the political right, I should say, versus the political left, they both kind of sound like it's apocalyptic. We're at the precipice of basically destruction, and so I was curious how you would see it, but
I think either of them have nothing to say about it.
okay.
The universe is going to make this decision for us.
Uh-huh.
We have really nothing to say about it, what goes on.
What do you mean by that? The universe has. I'm not sure if I quite understand you.
Well, just for instance, the global warming bullshit. Whether it's bullshit or not.
Oh, okay. I was trying to figure out if you were saying it was BS or you're saying that it's actually.
It could go either way.
Okay.
We could have another ice age.
Right.
And
interesting.
Yeah.
So you're not. So you think the climate stuff is not totally clear scientifically one way or the other yet?
I think we don't have enough of knowledge to be able to study it.
Because you know that the energy for changing a lot in the economy is coming from the left, who's convinced of the sort of climate science, global warming. But you're not, even though you might normally be, usually if someone's irreligious or more secular, they tend to identify politically with the left, but in that case, you're really not.
Yeah. So, because again, the power structure in this country is money oriented.
Yeah, right.
And what more money can you have than in oil and coal? So
there's that.
In our society, money is the power.
Do you think that here at this convention, if you went around and talked to people and said, you think the climate science, global warming science is right now, we really don't know one way or the other, would that be a popular view here? Or do you think you're not sure?
No, I bet it would be dealt with negative.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that when conservatives say that, they get lambasted as ignorant and foolish and don't know what they're talking about. They don't know science. And here you are, a mechanical engineer, and which isn't climatology, of course, but you're saying you're not convinced yet.
I'm convinced there's something changing.
Sure.
But I don't think...
But the cause, obviously.
Yeah, right, we have nothing. We can't do anything about it.
Okay.
And even if we did stop using the fossil fuel, it's never going to happen because the money thing is not going to allow it to happen.
So back to the universe then deciding this sort of trajectory, you didn't really mean at that point global warming will decide it. You just meant because humans are just a mix of chemistry and electromagnetism and so on. Yeah. The forces of nature just in the end sort of win out.
And again, like I said, it takes 8 minutes for the sun's energy to get to here.
Yeah.
But it takes 250 light years for the same energy to get from Antares to here.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
And it's the same energy.
Yeah.
So how do people try to understand that?
Yeah. It really is. To me, it feels inconceivable.
It could be.
I can't really wrap that
theory
that around my head.
Antares could have exploded and burned out, and we're just living.
We still don't know.
And we're just living on the energy that's on its way.
But light years wise, you would think you'd know something, right? But I'm trying to think of what the anyway. I know what you mean. So, do you? like you talked about the difference of opinion you had when you were younger versus when you were older. And I think about this now because I'm in my 50s, more. I think about it more now than I did when I was in my 20s. And do you feel like, does it seem bleaker because you don't believe in anything like beyond this? Does it feel bleaker now, or does it feel like it doesn't really matter as much as you thought it would? Did you feel it was, at any point during your lifespan, did you think, my view's kind of bleak? Because people who are religious will say it's a very bleak view, it feels hopeless and like there's not purpose to anything, and that's what they're going to say.
Yeah.
So do you feel like that crossed your mind more when you were younger, or middle-aged, or now as you're older?
Later middle age.
So why do you think it was sort of like late Middle Ages? So that would you put like, what would you say, that's 50s?
When people ask me about my past, when I was up in Sedona, I had like my Buddhist friends, my Hindu friends, my enlightened friends. The enlightened ones are, and so they would press me and says, I grew up in the dark, and the 50s all the way through, like, say, the late 70s. Well, I was stoned half the time anyway, I used, I used all the street drugs and stuff like that, and I didn't read very much. I maybe read the popular shit, but I wasn't a reader. And actually, I said I'm a mechanical engineer, but I was always a very poor student in school.
Well, a poor mechanical engineer is still pretty decent.
I basically did it. That's too long of a story. So anyway, sort of I lied my way into it. And so it got me a job. It got me a halfway decent job. I didn't wind up working in a machine shop my whole life. That's how I started out, as a machinist. So, like I said, I grew up in the dark. I just wasn't aware of what was going on until maybe my 50s. I started to read and find out.
So it was, so when you hit like your 50s and you started thinking a little more and kind of came out of it, it was then that you started to feel a little bit like, my view's kind of more bleak than I thought it was. Is that what you mean?
I never had a bright outlook on life. Never had a bright outlook on life.
But it got more pronounced then, and then it kind of started dissipating after that, I guess? Or has it just kind of stayed with you?
It stayed with me, but it was more of an acceptance. This is the way it are you happy? Are you happy? Fuck no. But I'll settle for all right. Trying to be perfect and try to be happy, that's too hard.
Too much of a burden,
It's too hard. But to be all right.
Being all right is actually pretty good, isn't it?
Actually, it's not bad at all. I'll settle for all right.
Do you, do you think, in terms of like actually dying, that, like if someone, so like the way Christians will look at it, not just Christians, but the way Christians, it's sort of like life has a sort of sanctity. So, Christians probably, like if they get cancer and they're 75 or 80 or something, they're sort of thinking they'll kind of go through that sickness till they die, you know what I mean? But it's becoming more popular in parts of the world to like go to clinics and kind of like decide when you're going to die. Like some people have terminal illnesses, some people just don't want to live anymore or whatever, and they have, ways of dying that seem less, sort of going through the sickness. So has that crossed your mind over time as you've gotten older?
It's under consideration.
Is it? Okay.
Well, as we speak.
Is it? Okay.
I'm a great procrastinator.
Plus, you're doing all right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't mean for you to have to divulge what you were doing. I was just kind of wondering if you're thinking at all about, have you thought about that, or that's all?
Yeah.
Okay, so it has crossed your mind.
I want to die healthy.
Okay, yeah.
And I sort of want to explore the evergreen. Is it the evergreen or
Yeah. That's what it is. I think it's something like that. I've heard that term.
the hemlock or something like that.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, okay.
Where they will assist you.
Yeah.
Through a death. So if I got cancer right now.
Yeah.
And they want to do chemotherapy on me.
Yeah.
I've seen too many people go through chemotherapy.
Yeah, right.
I'd take the back door.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
How do you think, let's say you didn't have cancer, and you were just like 2 years from now, and you're just like, I'm kind of getting on that edge or whatever. How do you think your kids would respond to this?
We're in the throes of this right now.
Okay, you are. All right. So I'm not trying to ask you to
what it is I had a couple of events where I lost consciousness, and I've been through every test there is, and I have the slightest idea what happened to me.
Okay.
So of course my kids are like, why don't you think about moving back here?
Right.
So, I like it out here. Back in Connecticut and New York, it's dark, it's dirty, it's hard.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that live out here for this reason, right?
Yeah. And
in Phoenix.
But basically, I'm joking with them. I said, you want me to come back for your convenience, not for my convenience.
Yeah.
Because if something happens to me, they all got to pile on a plane and come out here.
Yeah.
Whereas something happens to me,
so
back there, they jump in a car.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a hard decision for me to make. Should I change my life for them?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll ask God, huh?
Yeah, that's for sure.
God will give me the answer.
Yeah,
this is what people. This is what people do, right? They'll pray to God for this, to give me the answer.
Yeah, people pray to God for the answer for sure.
Yeah. No, it'll come to me. Yeah. I haven't been there. Well, the COVID thing screwed up my schedule going back.
Yeah.
But when I go back, I'll come up with an answer.
Yeah.
Because I'm out of friends down here. They're dying on me.
Yeah. Like the last rose of summer, the Irish song, "The Last Rose of Summer," Yeah. It's a famous Irish song, whatever. Yeah, I could see that being very difficult, with.
So I actually am down to like one close friend out here.
Yeah.
I mean, I had quite a few friends, but they, like I said, they all died.
Yeah.
And they're all younger than me. On top of that.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of friends back east left.
Yeah.
And I'll be close to New York. Where I'll be living is a 45-minute train ride into the city.
Yeah.
So,
have you, when you were younger, did you ever think, as you got closer to death, that you would think, that you would worry, you would wobble in your non-belief?
I don't understand.
Like people,
wobble.
they said, the old saying, which I think is kind of trite, but they'll say there's no atheists in foxholes. That old statement.
No, I don't know that.
You never heard that statement? Apparently, it's not that old. It's a very recent thing that's very young. The young people use it. I don't know. The idea is that people, as they get closer to dying, or if they think they might die, they pray.
Oh, all right.
Like people who are, they might be an atheist, but if they think the plane's going to crash, people pray. Like it's just a, So I'm curious if you. By the way, when I was in high school, I was an atheist, and I was a football player, and if the game was close, I would be praying on the sideline.
Oh, no kidding.
And I remember thinking, why am I praying? I don't believe in God. But I'm still like, God, if you do exist.
Yeah, you can pray to the universe.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, did you ever think when you were in your 50s or 60s or something, did you think, I wonder if I'll remain not believing right up until I die, or will I wobble?
Well, being I am of my age,
Yeah.
I do think of death.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
And I really don't give a shit.
Yeah, so but I'm saying when you were younger, did you feel like you might? You weren't. Okay. All right.
I never thought about death.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Most people don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's I never thought about death.
Yeah.
I think about it now, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And
Because your life's obviously there's been a lot of meaning and joy and all rightness, as you said.
Yeah.
You know, in your life. So in a sense, no one wants that to end if they're enjoying it. That's all. Well, see, don't you think this conversation was just a normal conversation?
Well, you're sort of a traitor. I don't know if I could really.
A traitor?
Yeah, I mean,
What do you mean?
You're an atheist, and now you're a believer.
I know.
And
I mean, you know,
I'm trying to think
my
now.
conversion was unimpressive. It's not like I was some genius thinking through stuff, and I tell people I finally, you know, was smart enough to believe in God, you know. But you know, that was quite a while ago. But I've continued to believe, and I actually feel probably more confident than I did back when I first converted, But you know, that'd be a whole other conversation, of course. But anyway, I was just trying to say to you, you seemed a little leery at first, and I'm saying I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, well, no,
like if I lived in town, I would think I'd like to grab another coffee with Philip because he seems like he just seems an interesting guy. Like I'd be interested in. You really threw me for a loop when you started talking about climate science and not sure what you think, and I'm like, I have actually a lot of other questions I would ask you that relate to other things, you know, but we're out of time. But anyway,
where do you live?
I live in Alabama now, though I grew up in Minneapolis.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't lived in Minneapolis since the early '90s.
The convention brought you here.
Yeah, I came here for the convention.
Yeah, no,
I go to atheist conventions. I'm like the only Christian there.
In our conversation, had my ears open to where you were trying to subliminally.
Did you think I was subliminally?
No, I had my.
You were looking for it.
Yes, I was looking for it.
But I don't think
you were. No, you're good.
No,
you're good.
I feel like we just had a really good conversation. To me, it's
good.
very interesting.
Yeah.
And you know, so obviously, I hope people, you know, like I think what I think is true, you know, and I think it's a good idea. But in the same way that if we did know like the truth about climate science, one way or the other, you know, then it would be good to know the truth of it. Yeah. But I don't. But yeah, anyway, I really enjoyed the conversation, Phil.